You guys see the Nick Shirley reporting coming out of, I was going to say Somalia, but it's actually coming out of Minnesota. But it's kind of crazy. So there was the whole feeding our future scandal that came up with the Somalians out there, where they were basically stealing money from some free food distribution program that was meant to feed hungry children. And so they were all signing up for it and using it for fraudulent purposes. Well, now Nick Shirley is just like this. He's just a guy. That's kind of the funny part about it. He's not associated with any media organization, but he has a really good report on this. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go watch it actually on YouTube. It's good enough that it's 40 minutes long, and I watched the majority of it. So just to give you an idea, what he's exposing is this other part of the scam, which are these child care centers that they have out there in Minnesota, where in some cases there's a building where there's 14 of these same centers all in the same literal office building, right? And it's apparently all Somalians that are signing up for whatever government program is allowing people who have a home health care center or a Somalian community health center to sign up for these funds. So it's both healthcare centers and it's child care centers. Let me put up the graphic here because this kind of helps to explain it. He has a really good graphic to illustrate the fraud scheme. I think you guys can see that here. Perfect. So it's set up to where there's 3 similar sounding but different kinds of things you can do, where it's adult daycare, child daycare, or healthcare, right? And you can set up any of these different types of businesses. They can be right next to each other in the same building. They visit something like 10 different child care centers, one after another, and none of them have any children in it, right? They're all empty. I think one of them had 1 kid, but other than that, they're all empty, and they're all getting millions of dollars from taxpayer money to basically fund these child daycare centers. They look like abandoned storefronts. Let me see if I can pull them up here. So these places that he's going to, what's interesting, all of the windows in several places, the windows are boarded up, or they're not boarded up, they're blacked out, so you can't even see inside. No one answers the doors. Very few people will even answer the doors. And he's just literally walking around to all these places, which apparently nobody from CNN thought to do, nobody from Fox News thought to do it. And he's exposing tons and tons of these places, which he's saying are essentially fraudulent. Here's another graphic that he was showing that's illustrative. It's a placard inside of one of the business centers that he went to, where there's 14 different businesses that are healthcare businesses of some sort or another. They share similar names. They're like Somali Health. You can check down the list there, but they're literally right next to one another. So as he's walking down the hallway in the documentary, he's like, oh, here's another one. It's a home healthcare center. Oh, and right next door, here's another one. It's a Somali Community Center. Here's another one. Very few of them have patients of any kind in it. So he's apparently exposed this huge fraud scheme. One of the things that I thought was interesting about it is it's just kind of impressive that there's just this guy walking around has brought all this to light, because the mainstream media hasn't covered it at all. And we really wouldn't have gotten this type of news with the mainstream media. You get from CNN or from Fox, you get whatever stories they decide as a group that they want to push, right? And if you go right now to their websites, this isn't covered on it. Fox might have it now, but it wasn't earlier. And so what you're seeing is this underground reporting where this is big all over X. If you're on X or Twitter and you follow the news on there, this has been the top story the entire day. It's covered nowhere else. So it really is a completely different kind of news media where you're getting this sort of guerrilla news from just people on the ground. It's so interesting watching him go do the reporting, and everyone asks him, who are you here with? And he goes, I'm Nick Shirley. And they go, but with who? And he goes, I'm with Nick Shirley. I'm a YouTuber. Huge story. So 14 home healthcare centers in one building. I think I have a clip of it here, actually. Here he's talking about the 14 places.
A list of all of the healthcare companies. Loads of them right here. We want healthcare. Yes, we'd like to speak about getting healthcare here. Why can't I get healthcare here? Warning, you are under video surveillance, no trespassing, security armed. This is the strangest place I've ever been to get healthcare. Just a bunch of different places. Healthcare right here, another healthcare company right here.
If these were actual businesses, wouldn't you expect them to not be 14 in the same place of essentially the same type of business? He does bring up a good point. Now, at one point during the video, he does walk into one of these places. I think I see one patient who does look like an actual patient who's sitting there. So maybe some of these places do treat people. I don't know. But based on the numbers that he's showing, at least in this report, with the amount of money that they're getting versus the amount condensed in this one area and the amount of patients, it does look like fraud.
There are
I think this is
three
the place.
healthcare companies.
I don't know if he gets kicked out at the end of this.
Because there's 14 healthcare companies inside this building, so.
That's not what he said. He said there's 14 companies here, and he's trying to assume because they're Somali providers that everyone here is fraudulent.
So
he's here with some kind of propaganda.
No, we're just checking.
No, this is a area that we're allowed to enforce trespassing ordinance. Is there any other reason you guys are here?
Well, we were checking rate.
So he gets kicked out by the police here. There's actually portions of the video where he's being followed around by like a van full of Somalians. Because apparently it's just a very tight-knit community out in Minnesota, the Somali community. So that's at least what he's alleging, is they protect each other because they're all in on the same sort of a scheme, right? So they all know what's going on. They alert each other when things are happening like that. And you could see there, to be fair, he does have a camera and he's walking around door to door. So they can say, hey, he's trespassing and he's interviewing. And I'm sure some of the people close the doors because they don't want the press there. But I don't think he gets a straight response from any of the child care centers or any of the home health care centers he goes to about how many children are actually there, who the patients are, or how long they've been there or anything. You question anyone that gets masters these days? You got, this was a Stephen Miller tweet. He says, he watched the Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra family Christmas with my kids. Imagine watching that and thinking America needed infinity migrants from the third world. So there is some truth to this. I don't love this tweet because I do feel like America can be a diverse place, right? I don't mind America being a diverse place. In fact, I think that's one of its strengths is diversity. It's a melting pot, in other words. I'm one of those people who buys that shit hook, line, and sinker, right? The key thing that I think he's saying here very distinctly, which makes it make sense, is the word infinity. Imagine watching that and thinking America needed infinity migrants from the third world. He brings up a good case, which is even if you believe in accepting people of different faiths, cultures, races, which I obviously, like I do, right? You still have to be tempered in the amounts of people that you're bringing in from those different cultures. You also have to be cognizant of how well each of those different types of cultures is able to assimilate into American culture. So for instance, certain cultures are probably better at assimilating than others, right? We've seen in various countries, Muslims, for instance, is one of the hot button topics. Now, their culture is very different, and their mindset is not to come in and to assimilate into your culture. It's in large part to come in and to make you assimilate to their beliefs, right? So they look to come in and enforce their beliefs upon your culture. And they have certain things which they won't bend on, that they're very intolerant on, right? So for instance, if you have a certain population of Muslims in the country and they will only eat halal food, right? And that's a sticking point for them, but the rest of the population can eat halal or non-halal, it doesn't matter to them, then that small minority, even though they're a much smaller percentage, because they're intolerant, over time, theoretically all food would be halal. It would all conform to the intolerant group's tastes, simply because they have a sticking point and the other group doesn't. So I'm sort of getting a little bit off topic here, but the point is, when you're looking at certain groups that you're bringing into the country, you have to look at how well they assimilate, and is there going to be a certain tipping point at which you move towards that exponential trajectory with where just given time, if they're more intolerant and they're unable to assimilate, they're going to change completely the culture of the country, right? America should be a melting pot, right? But the key of the melting pot is everyone melt, right? Everyone assimilates. In other words, you come in maybe a Somali American, you become an American, 100%. That's how I read it. What's been happening over the last several years is you have Somali that come in and they don't become Americans. They stay Somali Americans, right? Or they stay Mexican Americans, right? And you have these different groups who I think largely this is encouraged by Democrats who are very into identity politics, right? And are very into creating specialized identity groups. You see it in Minnesota right now. If you're a part of this specialized Somalian group, you can get all kinds of benefits, welfare benefits, SNAP benefits, You can create your home healthcare business. You can create a taxi cab business. You can create a daycare. You get a ton of stuff because you're part of this special interest group. But what that's also doing is it's making people have an asterisk next to being an American. They're not just 100% an American. They're a conditional American, right? And that's where I think we run into problems with reaching a cultural tipping point. You can sort of see it in Minnesota a little bit, right? Where they reached a certain cultural tipping point and now the entire state is overrun with fraud, right? Because they didn't watch that threshold carefully enough.